GM, everyone. It is Friday, which means we are live. So welcome back to the SolanaFloor Weekly Recap. I'm Jack Dunham. I'm joined, of course, as always, by our senior journalist, Finn. GM Finn.
GM Jack, how are we getting on?
We are hot. It is a heat wave in Europe. And the one and only Mr. Thomas Bahamas from just across the pond, GM Thomas.
GM, everybody.
All right. Now, look, it's been a hectic week, so difficult to decide even where to begin, and simply no two ways about it. The bottom, everyone's talking about this, may very possibly have come a little bit earlier than anticipated, and there's multiple reasons why analysts believe this to be true. We're going to look at many of them today. And the point is, we all want to make our minds up together as to whether or not we go up from here, back towards those all-time highs that we miss, or if there's more chop and potentially even downside before those November midterms that people are rightly very, very stressed about. Now, top of the list is breaking a 15-day outflow streak. Spot Bitcoin ETFs recorded $221 million in net inflows on July 2nd. That is yesterday, marking their first inflow day in more than 2 weeks. That's good news. But whether we can decide from that, whether we can say decisively from that, if the TradFi bros, the Wall Street guys are now trying to front run a significantly sustained rally, we'll have to sort of wait and see. As you all know, very myopic industry that we work in, so we like to focus on what's right in front of our noses. So we're going to get into the list of things that are happening this week. Now, Ansem's memecoin story has to be first. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about some mind-blowing price targets from Ansem himself that came within the last 24 hours. He said that we're potentially going to be seeing a $900 Sol, because it is possible that Solana reaches Ethereum's all-time high market cap. In the short term, he thinks that $600 per Sol is possible this cycle. Let's do a bit of a reality check, though. Right now, we are over 70% down from the all-time high of Sol. I think that was $293. Personally, my target is the much more conservative $293 for this cycle. So all I'm hoping to see is the previous all-time high. So what does that put us? That's about 50% of Ansem's all-time high target. Still, though, it's about a 260% increase from the current Sol price of around $80. What do we think about that? $600 this cycle, $900 in the long run. Feasible?
Look, I would love to see a $600 Sol. I'm always skeptical of price targets. I think it's a very attractive thing to say, and it's a great way to start conversations. I think if we strip all that away, Sol is underpriced as it is. It's a great asset. I think it appreciates, whether that's to $300, whether that's to $600. I can't say, but look, Sol is looking better than it has ever looked from a technical standpoint. So I suspect that the markets will reflect that in the near term. Thomas, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to shill your bags, just go for it. I think that there's just like a lot of optimism out there right now. I mean, we got the SIMDs that are changing tokenomics. We got usage all-time high, $100 million runners on meme coins, tokenized stocks that are actually on chain. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of the narratives are actually kind of coming together, and it's all for like on Solana. And it's like, as long as, I don't know. I feel like as long as Bitcoin doesn't just like completely blow up, which it seems to be stabilizing, even, we saw those inflows, like I'm pretty positive, why not go for a $600 price target?
Interesting. Finn's bullish. I'm bullish. TB's bullish. But you know what? Ansem is so bullish that he went as far as saying, if you're in AI right now, pivot to crypto. I find that pretty fascinating. For months and months, people were talking about this pivot from crypto to AI because that's where all the VC capital and the attention and the energy was going. All the sort of gigabrain innovation houses, that's what they were focusing on. And now it seems, at least to Ansem, that there might be a pivot back from that. So Finn, Thomas, I guess that's my first question to you before we dive into this newsletter is, are we as bullish as Ansem is right now? Beginning of July, have we found a 60K BTC bottom? Have we found a $60 Sol bottom? Or are we sort of discounting some of the factors that we should be focusing on? And are we living in fairyland if we talk about, a 10x from here, $600 per Sol, 10x from the bottom rather to the all-time high? Is that realistic in the next few months?
In the next few months, certainly not. Maybe the next few years, it could be in the picture. But as bullish as Ansem is, and as bullish as I am, I still think there's a few things that we need to address, at least for the next 6 months. Clarity Act to tanking. People are rightly suspecting that this might not actually go through in the end. This has been hanging over the industry for a very long time. We've been saying that it needs to get signed into law before the midterms come through, and or otherwise it's not going to get there. Alex Thorne, head of research at Galaxy Digital, came out and said there's just actually not enough time on the Senate floor to get this across the line. And I think markets have been pricing in the fact that this would pass for a long time. So if we have that pulled away from us, we could see a lot of structural changes. The other thing is that Sailor is still selling. You know, Sailor has been clipping out some Bitcoin on chain. People have been tracking that, and it promotes this idea that there is still going to be some sharks in the water still hunting Sailor. Maybe we dig out of this, but I think there's still a lot of choppiness that is still to come. Thomas, what's your read?
Yeah, I kind of align with that, right? So it does kind of seem like at least the doom is over, right? You know, like it doesn't seem like as hopeless as before, right? Like it seems like there is, you know, some sort of local bottom here. You know, we can kind of see the light with, you know, all these narratives actually forming. Do some of them actually rely on the Clarity Act passing? Probably, but I mean, even without it passing, I think that we still have, you know, the momentum going, and that's one of the things that gets me the most excited is like people are on chain on Solana. People are using the chain a ton. Like you can see it like all-time high of usage, and pick your poison, you know, whatever you want to do. If you're a perps trader, there's perps dexes that are live. If you're a meme coin trader, the memes are pumping right now. You know, people have been calling them dead for a while, and it's, you know, the volume speaks for itself there. And if you want to trade stocks on chain, it's there, right? So like there just seems to be like a lot going on that regardless of, you know, what happens in the Senate or whatever it is, it's like, you know, these narratives are here, right? So
They are.
it feels good, right?
But we do need to talk about how many things the senators need to do before they actually get the clarity. I think Finn briefly mentioned it. Is it item 453 on their to-do list?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not the kind of number you look at and think, okay. On the other hand, they all want to get this done ASAP. Right now, as we know, as we get closer to November, there is an increasingly powerful and growing number of senators who actually just want to put a break on the amount of money that Trump is making. It is one of the stories that we're going to get into today. We need to talk about it. But before we get there, Finn, I've opened the newsletter here. I'm going to ask you to sort of talk us through your high level take on the week. But I want to make one final point here specific to Solana. I feel like we're talking about macro for a while. Solana's real world asset, all-time high of $3.6 billion. We saw that Solana added over $500 million this week alone in real world assets. Those are insane numbers because we covered Solana's growing RWA space, if you will, less than 2 weeks ago when it hit that major milestone of about $3 billion. So now it's very impressive to see in such a short period that it's grown to 3.6 billion. Now with that, Finn, could you please talk us through what is going on in this newsletter? Because again, such an insanely busy week that we could talk about the macro all day, we could talk about Solana all day, but there's a few stories that really tie it in and give us a sense of whether or not we've bottomed, where we're going to be going for the next few months, and how much of a risk that November midterm period could really be. So take it away, please.
Look, it was a very difficult week writing this newsletter because simply so much has happened that choosing what actually made the cut into the top 6 was an incredibly difficult task. Now, obviously, the top story, the story on everybody's mind is, has Ansem done the damn thing and has he CTO'd the whole chain? Last week, we were talking about how Ansem was saying it's the bottom, saying that it's time to send Sol all the way back up. And he delivered on his promise in many ways. You know, he talked a lot about how Pump had failed to deliver the airdrop that they had promised. It's time that he, you know, put the chain on his back and did that himself. And we saw Ansem absolutely rip out of the gate on Sunday. A random coin sent to the man's wallet himself. 60% he was holding, and that's now sitting at around 170 million market cap. I don't remember the last time I saw a coin go from 1 million to 100 million in the space of 24 hours. The whole chain seems to be trading it. Everybody's eyes are focused on Ansem's coin. So whether you love him, whether you hate him, he's brought a lot of WAGMI energy, which we love to see. Otherwise, we finally got an answer for what in the world is world.xyz. A lot of speculation over the last few weeks about what world actually was. And now we know this will be a Solana-native prediction market. And I'll tell you guys, we have needed this for a very long time. So I'm stoked and I can't wait to, you know, sink my claws into that. And obviously, it wouldn't be a week on Solana without a bit of airdrop drama. So this, I think, for anyone who has seen grass in the past would have known this was coming. Grass farmers obviously extremely disappointed and frustrated with the cents on the dollar they got for sharing their internet bandwidth for 2 years. We'll be sure to dive into all that. But yeah, it's quite quite scandalous down there in airdrop land. But yeah, very, very big week, fellas.
Busy week, scandals all over the place. Quick reminder before we dive into story number one, which is Ansem's airdrop, that you can earn up to 8% on your Sol by using the Sanctum app. It is live on Seeker and I believe also live on Android and iOS. But do check it out. There is a waitlist. Otherwise, go check out Sanctum. It's a great app, very simple to use. Now, headline number one, as you can see, is Ansem rips to $100 million in 24 hours, but can it actually save the trenches? You've most likely, almost definitely seen the meme coin called the Black Bull over the last week. Pretty much went from, zero, about 1 million market cap, to about 107 million market cap in 24 hours. Over 26,000 holders in no time. Traders are tracking, small positions. People have made life-changing money. We reported earlier in the week on one trader hitting a 296x. I think he invested 850 dollars, if I'm not mistaken, and he made life-changing money. So things are happening in the Solana trenches that haven't happened for a long, long time. The main question that sort of sticks out from this is whether or not pump.fun's airdrop is actually going to happen. Is Ansem putting on enough pressure to pump.fun to actually deliver on that airdrop, which they sort of promised that would happen maybe a year ago? In any case, Finn, a lot of people are making life-changing money. The trenches might be back, but we're not convinced yet. Do you mind giving us the full picture?
Yes. So anyone who's been following Solana probably knows this story reasonably familiarly well. At this stage, on Sunday, Saturday, Ansem made his pump.fun wallet public. A bunch of people sent him coins there, and he said that he was going to redistribute any rewards that he got sent with his followers. What ended up happening was that someone sent a coin called the Black Bull to Ansem. His wallet ended up with about 60% of the supply, and lo and behold, that was the chosen coin. Everyone started trading that. The Black Bull became the Ansem flagship token. And look, the trenches went absolutely nuts for it. Like you mentioned, we went from 0 to 100 million in 24 hours. Now we're at 170 million. This has been going absolutely stonking, and it's injected some real wagme energy back into the chain. And I think this is what people love. People love to see other people win, and seeing these P&Ls is actually what brings people into crypto in the first place. So look, hats off to Ansem. He's done incredibly well to make this happen. He started airdropping out tens of thousands of millions of dollars to people all over the world with all wallet sizes. And to his credit, he's actually making a lot of life-changing money for a lot of people. Now, there are some arguments against this. The trenches obviously and crypto at large are undecided on whether this is a net positive or a net negative. Some people are saying that we're basically just washing liquidity between the same pairs of hands, and this isn't growing the chain at all. Ansem was saying, look, if I can bring on 1,000, 10,000 new people to the chain and then get them to start using other apps on Solana, this is to everybody's benefit. Let me cook. So the jury is out whether this is net positive, net negative. I think we haven't seen everything just yet, but ultimately, Ansem wants to he wants to reach pump.fun's market cap, and then he wants to distribute that wealth in a way that Pump never did. So I think it's a noble attempt. I think you can't blame him for trying. At the moment, he's crushing it. He's succeeding. So for now, I love to see it. Thomas, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think this really just kind of proves that like the trenches didn't really die, right? They were around. They needed something to rally around, and Ansem is a big name, right? He has over 1 million followers on Twitter. He's a big voice. Like he was a big Solana bull. Like yes, he kind of, he was pretty bearish towards the top, but he's come back in a really big way. And I mean, for having a coin, a person to rally around, like it's fun, right? Like I don't own any of the coin, but like I'm following along, and he's airdropped over $10 million out to people so far, I think. So, I mean, this is a big stimmy for the trenches that we've been needing. And, I've been looking at the FOMO app, and the top traders on there have all made over six figures. A lot of them have made over six figures in the last like 24 hours, 7 days. So people are printing, they are making money. And, regarding Pump, it's like, I don't think they need to do the airdrop, right? Like, I don't know if this is going to force them to do the airdrop, right? Like they're printing money off of this rush, right? Like they make a lot of money, do they need to do this airdrop? No, but should they? Yes, it would be insane if they did, right? If both Ansem airdropped and Pump airdropped, imagine the scenes. It would be unreal, and it would be fitting, right? Because they did tease the airdrop and then kind of took that away. So I think it would be huge. I'm just excited to see where this goes. I'm hoping that the energy, the liquidity, everything kind of keeps going along, because this is like, this gets me excited, right? I wake up and look at it and it's like, wow, the longevity of this coin has been like way longer than any other coins I've seen, right? Usually you see a coin pasted in a chat, it goes to 100K and then 3K, right? Where this is like, this is it's been above $100 million for a few days now, and now it's at 170. It's crazy. So
I was
I'm loving
skeptical.
every minute of it.
I was very skeptical that it would last. I did dabble. It went fine, and I thought, probably not going to last, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
I should have absolutely had more conviction than I did. Congratulations to anyone who's been holding since sub 50 million market caps. Yeah, as we mentioned, a lot of people have made life-changing money on this. I hope it continues. You mentioned something interesting there about Ansem being rather bearish towards the top. He did say publicly not too long ago that he basically sold his entire Sol position around the all-time highs. So I think he indicated about $260 a pop. He sold everything. He wasn't holding any Sol for a long, long time. And he did indicate that he was quite bearish despite all of the solid fundamentals that we've been discussing on SolanaFloor for quite some time now. And I think he made a lot of enemies. He lost some followers, and within the space of a few short weeks, his sort of take on Solana has shifted. He's done this sort of great service, if you will, for the trenches, offered them a bit of a stimmy check, and he seems to be the leading hero, the number one hero of the Solana trenches at the moment. Is that fair to say? And my second question to both of you guys is, let's say pump.fun sees this. Now, yes, they are printing, as you mentioned, Thomas. They don't need to do an airdrop. But if they do see this, they see the amount of sort of energy that it brings back into Solana capital markets, and then they do a massive airdrop, or they do a few sort of tiered airdrops, surely that would still be net positive for their own bottom line, because it's going to create all this wealth generation. Some win, many lose. But then surely that would be a bit of a magnet for new people to be entering the trenches. That's my take. What do you think?
I can't speak for the economics interiorly of what's happening with pump.fun, but I think at this point of bottom sentiment is the right moment to do an airdrop. At this stage, if Pump did a massive airdrop, yes, a whole bunch of people would sell, the token probably nuke, but I think that would be the ultimate capitulation of sentiment on Pump. And from there, you're going to have tens of thousands of wallets with Pump in them. And from there, I think sentiment changes, right? And I think, the trenches come back to life. We got revenue flowing into the Pump token, and you ride out, token goes up, token keeps going up. You build this die-hard community of people who are going to put Pump on their back, and it becomes the success story of the cycle, and it all happens in the space of 2 weeks. I would love to see it. I don't know if we do see that, but to your point that you mentioned, I think this is great for Solana because activity is up. We've got over 20,000 wallets waking up for the first time in a year. Everyone wants to be trading on chain again. That's great for the network. That's great for validators. That's great for network activity. Look, I think it's positive. I think it does come down at some point. I think meme coins rely on attention, and attention can only go so long. So I hope that everyone gets enough good vibes out of this in the time that we have, and that no one gets too badly burnt on it. But yeah, Thomas, I'll throw Jack's question over to you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think regarding Ansem, I think he's totally redeemed himself, right? Like, yes, he got bearish at the top, but it's like, that was actually the right call. Like you can't hate him for being right, even though, me personally, towards the top, I was like, this thing is going to $1,000, and he was right. So, I didn't want to hear it, but it was the truth. But I think that, him bringing this back and kind of leading this charge, I think that's redeeming himself. And I mean, also, like, regarding the activity, like the meme coin activity is ripping, but it's on top of everything else that's already been going on, right? So like this, it's really proving out like what Solana can handle, what Solana is. So yeah, I mean, it's just overall so bullish.
But
Jack,
is it going to make Pump more or less likely to do an airdrop and deliver on their promise and reinvigorate the trenches to a whole new level? Are the Solana trenches really going to be back to the extent that they were the be-all and end-all of the Solana economy, if you will, for quite a while towards the end of 2024? That is the burning question on people's minds. Do you have sort of a gut feeling?
I don't think it comes back in the way that it was previously. I think the meme coin game is solved as it is now. I think there needs to be some considerable changes to how it structurally works. The problems that were there in the trenches 3 weeks ago are not magically solved by one coin doing well. There needs to be some kind of underlying change. But on the other hand, I I like Pump. I think Pump loves the story. I think Pump loves the drama. The anniversary of their TGE is coming up in the next 2 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if around the 1 year birthday of Pump, there wasn't some kind of event or some kind of hint that put us on the direction towards maybe getting that
Surely.
fabled airdrop one day. So everybody, I think, is going to be watching July 12, July 14. I forget the precise day, but that week I think is going to be a very, very big week for on-chain traders.
Yeah, and I would say, like, I don't know what the actual odds are of this, but like if I was a betting man, I would say that the odds of an airdrop have increased since this, right? Everyone's calling on them. Ansem's been like reply guying to all of Pump
Yep.
Fun's tweets, like you got to do the airdrop. So I mean, it's like it's on everyone's mind. They are fantastic when it comes to like understanding like the mentality of the trenches, and I would assume that they know exactly what's going on, and the odds of it have gone up a little bit, right?
That is my gut reaction to it as well, that the odds have gone up. How low were they to begin with?
Yeah.
We don't know. They could have been close to zero. So, you can double one and get to two. That's not too high. Now, we're going to get to story number two, which is something that people have been waiting to find out about for weeks and weeks and weeks now. The headline, as you can see, is World launches Solana-native prediction market powered by Chainlink. World.xyz is the enigma that people have been speculating about for weeks and weeks now. Is finally revealed. The Solana ecosystem has its own Solana native prediction market. It is, as you can see in the headline, powered by Chainlink, which some people have found to be an interesting choice. We can get into that. If you have any strong feelings about that, let us know in the comments. We'll be happy to address them. But here we are. We have our own sort of prediction market, if you will. My understanding of it is that it's going to start with prices and then move on to, or also going to have some Football World Cup prediction markets on there. I believe it's already live in Phantom wallets. So, I mean, look, people have been banging on this drum for quite a while now. Finn, Thomas, and I, actually, all three of us have been banging on this Solana native prediction market drum since December last year, when Kalshi was in the room with us at Breakpoint in Abu Dhabi. And I think they were valued at $11 or $13 billion at the time. So we thought, wow, that is a huge valuation. Surely it can't double from here. And here we are, 7-8 months down the line, and Kalshi is talking about raising at a $40 billion valuation, right? So it's quadrupled. There seems to be no end in sight for these prediction market valuations. Again, very interesting that Chainlink is the partner here. It rolled out on Phantom users first. Another interesting thing that I want to get your thoughts on, Finn and Thomas, is that they're using Phantom's stablecoin Cash as the settlement. Now, if you use Phantom every day, then you know that Phantom, the wallet, has been pushing this stablecoin Cash for quite a while now. They've defaulted in some of their transactions to using it. If you're, for example, removing money from your Perps account, unless you select the different stablecoin, it's going to default to giving you cash. Interesting that this is happening, but the timing is impeccable. Another question to you is, do you think, given the name World.xyz, that they were hoping to get this thing live before the FIFA World Cup, and then, delays happened? Interesting one. Do let us know. Finn, walk us through the full story here, and are you as excited as I am?
I think I'm as excited as you are, Jack, because I've been waiting for a Solana native prediction market for an exceptionally long time. Having a good prediction market on chain is table stakes at this point. I think if you don't have one on your chain, you're struggling to be competitive. So I'm stoked that World has actually, been able to pull something out of the hat. I don't think they named it to coincide with the World Cup. I think it's a great name. The idea being just trade whatever is happening in the world. I think the branding they've done is incredible. And even the go-to-market campaign has been a delight to watch play out. So well done to the team behind that. What do we have? We have a prediction market, all fully on chain, fully composable. Interesting rollout, deciding to only roll out through to Phantom and settle everything in cash. I think obviously this is going to change. They've hinted that there's going to be more front-end integrations with time. I don't think that that's all going to be gated to cash as well. I suspect it's going to become, the full embracing the full breadth of Solana DeFi as we would expect. I suspect actually that maybe World wanted to get their web app out live all at the same time, but like you mentioned, maybe they just really wanted to actually get in and roll out during the World Cup to capture the volume from this incredible event. Powered by Chainlink, as you mentioned. Interesting choice. I would have, this is perhaps unfair, but it would have been cool to see a Solana native oracle like Pith get the nod here. But,
yeah,
I don't decide these things. No, look, I am very, very excited to see World roll out its web app. I really want to see what how it differs from teams like Polymarket and Kalshi. But mostly, I'm just happy that we now have a hyper-competitive prediction market that can go toe-to-toe in one of the biggest consumer verticals that we've seen in the past 2 years. Thomas, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I am extremely excited about everything that's going on with World. So it's like the marketing campaign's fantastic. I like it all. Do we know anything about the meme coin? Because there is a World meme coin that's like gone from like $5 to $10 million.
There is.
I haven't
I
heard a
don't
single
know if
thing.
it's is it official? Surely not, right? Surely
No,
someone just
I
took the
don't think
logo.
they've claimed it.
I think
No.
there's a 110% chance that it is not official.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was assuming, but
Maybe.
it would be an interesting way of having a token. So launching it on pump.fun would be a weird way, but you never know. But overall, like prediction markets, they're huge, right? Like you said, Kalshi valued at $40 billion. I was reading a news story this morning that Facebook and Meta were trying to actually buy Kalshi, and they wouldn't sell to him, and so that's the reason why he's now building his own prediction market. So it's like this is the top of mind, right? Like this is like the next big markets that people are going after. And when you think about like speculation in general, like a lot of what we do or a lot of what traders do in crypto and even TradFi is they're betting on like the market's reaction to news,
Mm.
right? So this happens, what's going to happen to my Bitcoins or whatever it is. Where this is like the next step of that is you're just straight betting on the news, which, you know, it, is that better than betting on the market's reaction to assets? You know, I don't know. You know, we'll see. Obviously, it leads to insiders. You know, whoever is involved in the news is directly an insider, right? Like the whole paradox of the video that I made was, you know, it's on mainstream news. You know, it's in every election cycle. They use the odds there, but the flip side of that is like there is a Green Beret who did some insider trading based on this. The Israeli army is accused of like all using Polymarket as well, and they're betting with confidential information. They are the insiders, right? So it's insider
Mhm.
information. Obviously, that's all allegedly now. None of that's like proven, you know, in the courts yet. But
Except for the
it
Green Beret, right? I think he was
he was
charged,
charged.
but maybe, yeah,
I think
maybe
I
not in
think I
jail
think
yet.
court's not till December, but it
Right.
looks pretty bad from the outside, right? You know,
It looks pretty bad.
it's not looking good, and I don't know how you combat that, right? Because essentially everybody could be a potential insider for this. Which is that better than, you know, bundling meme coins? I don't know, but this is something that's not going away, right? This is probably going to be the biggest sector, you know, coming up 2026,
Yep.
2027.
I mean, even Trump himself said when he was asked about this Green Beret and the $400,000 of profit that he made from his poly market position about the Maduro event, the extraction of Maduro in that Venezuela operation, you know, he sort of looked a bit disappointed and he said, "Yep, it seems the world is becoming somewhat of a casino."
Yeah.
So everyone is aware of this. Yeah, you made an interesting point there, though. Is it better? Given all the insider trading possibilities, is it better for people to be, you know, just trading, speculating on the price of assets, or is it better for them to be, you know, learning about global events, macro events, headlines, trading off of headlines? I don't know. An interesting statement that Finn mentioned to us, actually. Finn, remind me again who the statement was from. Was it one of the Kalshi founders who was saying it's better than children doom scrolling, or better than young people doom scrolling?
Yeah, I believe it was Tarek Mansour, who's
You're right.
maybe one of the co-founders or one of the C-suite members of Kalshi, who said, this is better than having teenagers on TikTok and Instagram just doom scrolling. This way, they're engaging in the world, they're learning about things like inflation and geopolitics. Where is that better? Perhaps there's look. I think it is. I think it's great that people are now more incentivized to be involved in their world and learn more about what's going on. In current affairs. Does that mean we need to financialize every single tiny aspect of our life? I'm not sure, but that's a much larger philosophical conversation that I don't think is what the audience wants to hear today.
I
My
agree. I
ramblings.
agree. You're absolutely right. One thing I do want to interject here with is we were talking about the FIFA Football World Cup, and one of our listeners has commented here saying soccer. It is not. It is football. I'm so sorry. It will always be football. Apologies to everyone who calls it soccer. You are wrong. Now, we're going to go back to Finn's spicy newsletter here for a second because story number 3 is another contentious one. As you can see from the headline here, OUSD, Open Standard unveils OUSD, a stablecoin for the internet economy. Now, I wasn't aware of this until maybe yesterday, but it turns out there is a fairly contentious sort of undertone in this story. The interesting angle, at least what I found interesting, is basically Open Standard unveiled this new stablecoin, OUSD. It's supposedly backed by 140 plus partners, including, these names blew my mind, BlackRock, Google, Visa, Stripe, PayPal, Western Union, Shopify. This list goes on and on and on. It's a very, very long list of 140 massive companies. And the official communications indicated, for better or worse, that zero mint and redemption fees. I think that part's true. It was said that the distributed earnings, they're going to distribute earnings from reserves. Up until this point, again, everything sounds fine. The reaction to it was that Circle stock dropped by about 13% in a day. And then 24 hours later, some people are now basically pointing fingers at some of the communication, saying it's not quite as legitimate or well-researched as you think, because I think it was Samsung who said, actually, we didn't really know too much about this. So Finn, give us the big picture. And before you dive into the details of the story, I'm curious if you think, now that Circle's stock price has dropped by 13%, was this an overreaction? And given the sort of question marks around some of the communication, some of the partnerships that were announced, i.e. Samsung, is it a fair trade to be long Circle essentially and assume that 13% price drop is now going to get normalized?
A very multi-layered question, Jack. Look,
Apologies.
I think it wasn't an overreaction at the time. I think if we introduce a new stablecoin that has no mint and burn redemption fees and that has is going to distribute earnings amongst contributors, that's a great USP. You know, this is a great thing that the stablecoin economy needs. It has been tried before. Let's not forget that. So I think the original dump that Circle faced was not an overreaction. But with this new information coming to light, that teams like Samsung coming out and saying there was no official consultation about this, we didn't really agree to this. The fact that Circle is now kind of trending back up in derivatives markets is an indication that maybe we do normalize. I think this is a great idea. I really want to see something like OUSD come out because Circle and Tether make a tremendous amount of money. Their annualized revenue is in the billions, and they have got a complete vice grip on this market. You know, the entrenchment and the regulatory layer and the moat that Tether and USDC have built over the years is incredible. At the same time, if someone can come in and can distribute that wealth and distribute that revenue and create a stable coin that has no mint and burn fees and can share those earnings on reserves with all the people who are involved in the process, I think that's a net positive, right? I think that's a win for DeFi. I think that enables a greater flow of wealth through the DeFi economy. So I'm on board in that respect. I think there is perhaps some mysticism around the reality of whether this becomes true. I know that global stablecoin USDG was attempting to do a similar thing with distributing earnings, and that hasn't really eaten into Tether and USDC's market share in quite the same way that people are expecting this one will. Look, it's a very complicated story. I think we're not going to know for a few more months how this plays out. The stablecoin's not even live yet, right? They've said it's going to be launching day one on Solana and a bunch of other chains. We don't actually know when that is going to be. I think in the interim time before that happens, Circle has plenty of time to, close that gap and start trading back where it was trading earlier this week. Thomas, do you think we need another stablecoin like this? Do you think we're actually set with all the stablecoins we've already got?
I think it's an interesting take on stablecoins. Like, I like the way that it's set up. Like, if we could somehow, lower the importance of both Circle and Tether, that would probably be good for everybody. But they're behemoths at this point, right? Like, those are massive companies. Like, I don't think they're just going to roll over on this. And as far as like, if you're a user, you're probably not going to quickly switch over, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people have been using Tethers for years as like their main source. So I think that's interesting. I think, I was excited when I read through all the companies. I was like, all right, are all of these companies going to be instantly taking stable coins? And I would imagine it's probably not like day one, hey, like spend your stable coins here. And then I don't know. I go back and forth with payments and stable coins. So like for me, like I live in the US, right? Like domestically, I don't really see a big use case for me paying for everything with stable coins. But like the real win is like the international, right? Like the distribution of dollars, availability of dollars. So like on the big international companies, like I see that being kind of a win, but I don't know. Like with stablecoins, I kind of go back and forth on whether they're going to be used every day for small payments for this, or if it's like business use cases where they're like transferring money between countries, where it's like that's where it really makes sense. Like, what's your take on that, Finn or Jack?
Yeah, no, go ahead, because I've got a fairly contentious opinion on this. But Finn, what's your take on international stablecoin payments before I get angry?
When I think of things like this, I think of stablecoins. I'm not thinking of going to the local store and buying your McDonald's burger with stablecoins. My brain immediately goes to how this works in DeFi, how this works in the institutional scale of moving money. I think if we can trim the revenue line on companies like Tether and Circle, who have just dominated this industry and basically are unchallengeable at this stage, I think that's good. I think fee compression will help the end user long term. So that's why I'm advocating for OUSD to do quite well here. At the same time, if they've actually completely botched this partnership list, and Samsung comes out and says we didn't agree to this, a bunch of other Korean, Japanese companies said like this is the first we're hearing of this. It's tells a story that there's maybe less credibility to this than we were first led to believe. Jack, go on. What do you reckon?
I was going to say something fairly similar. Look, we have been talking about stablecoin innovation for a long, long time. We want fully decentralized stablecoins. A lot of us at least, came into this industry because we believe in disintermediation. We don't want monopolies or duopolies, right? Circle and Tether are trusted names. Okay, they've achieved massive amounts of revenues, network effects. Yes, when you see the logo, you trust it. You know it's going to work. But at the same time, if a lot of the value that's generated through using these two stable coins in ecosystems like Solana is actually in the long run leaving the Solana ecosystem, that is something that we need to talk about. It is a new form of duopoly. It is a new form of intermediation. We don't necessarily want to be supporting this blindly. Having said that, what frustrates me, as Finn was alluding to, is you can't just throw a name like Samsung in there and expect people to think, oh yeah, this is so legitimate because BlackRock, the Visas of the world, Samsung is also backing this, and I'm just going to blindly support. You can't do that, because then in the long run, you're losing more trust than you sort of stood to gain in the first place. So stablecoin innovation, yes, net positive, good. Let's have more of it. Disintermediation, yes, but please don't lie to people in your press releases. In the long run, it's going to end up biting you in the butt, and you are essentially shooting yourself in the foot. That's my little rant.
Yeah, I like. Okay, it's a good rant. I like that, and I want to see innovation in stablecoins too. Like in theory, I'm 100% on board with that. In practice, I am not. I'm a coward. I just use USDC. Like I don't know why. Maybe I should be, using more. But like when it comes down to it, and if I'm using stables, like I still just gravitate straight to USDC.
Yeah, because it works, right? And as the Americans say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we need to really convince people of why maybe it's not broken, but why there is a better alternative. And essentially, by lying to people in your press release, you're making that a very, very difficult job for people to come out with these new, maybe ecosystem native stable coins. Solana whitelist, white label, stable coins. You're making it very difficult for people to trust new stable coins. So interesting question here from T Money. He says, it'd be like spending from your savings account. No, isn't the return about 4.4%? Not exactly sure what he's referring to. Finn, do you have a sense of which part of the story that is a reference to?
Not particularly. I imagine that perhaps given the names that are supposedly backing this, there will be some kind of card product that will do some kind of cashback payment that will be using the reserves that they generate. I can't confirm that wasn't in the press release. But actually, Jack, if you scroll down a wee bit lower,
sure. In the story, here we go.
Yeah. There's a really, really great tweet here from Paolo, who is the CEO of Tether. Just touch up there. He says, "Welcome, OUSD. Player 2 has entered the game." We love this tweet, Paolo. Yeah. Just a complete backhanded slap to his greatest competitor, Circle. On one hand, you've got Jeremy Allaire writing this War and Peace essay about how they welcome competition, how they're taking this seriously. Paolo just 2 sentences, bang, throws the shade, gets on with his life.
Very disrespectful.
Yeah, it's going to get very spicy in the stablecoin, I think, in the years to come.
Yeah,
such a chat.
I agree. Now, what else do we have here? The dominance figures, as you can see on screen, of Circle and Tether are blistering. The 12-month revenues are $5.9 billion and $2.4 billion, respectively, between Tether and Circle. So, again, this is whatever way you look at it, however you try and square that circle, it is a duopoly. I think it is fair. I think it is time that we see new stable coins. And I think that is, we were talking about there, Please don't make it difficult for people to trust these new stablecoins. If you've got 140, multinational sort of corporation level of partners, trusted partners, don't just throw another name like Samsung out there and make everyone's life more difficult. And with that said, let's switch our attention back to story number 4. It is now another trust-related story from Finn's newsletter. This is, I think, the most important and most underrated story that has come out this week. We all need to be talking about it. To be fair to the mainstream media, they have done a very good job of putting some of this reporting under the spotlight, if you will. They have been asking Donald Trump fairly consistently about these numbers. The headline, as you can see, is Trump reports over $1.4 billion in crypto income as financial filings renew ethics debate. Ethics debate is about right, but if you unpack that, there's a whole lot more going on. There's the Clarity Act that plays into this. There's the Democrat arm that's very much led by people like Elizabeth Warren, who want to stop Trump's crypto corruption, as they call it. And I put that in inverted commas for a good reason. There's the fact that the entire crypto economy, the entire crypto industry, in the US got behind Donald Trump in his last election bid. And there were so many single issue voters in the US who basically supported the Trump election campaign. Think back to 2024 Nashville Bitcoin conference when you had the room going crazy when Trump said he was going to basically sack Gary Gensler on day one and he was going to have this Bitcoin reserve and all these promises that were made. And fast forward to today, and we're finding out that the US president earned over $1.4 billion from crypto. People are rightly angry. If you zoom out a little bit more, you'll find out that actually Forbes estimates, I think Reuters and Forbes estimate together that it's about $2.36 billion of Trump family crypto earnings since the day he got back into office. There's a lot to unpack. I think that in the grand scheme of things, it is making it difficult for crypto to pass clarity. But Finn, talk me through this story. And I think a shout out to Pablo is due here for doing some good White House financial reporting as well.
Yeah, well done, Pablo, for throwing this one together. Look, we've been sold delusions here, fellas. I think this is very sad, right? Trump came in, he said, "I'm going to be the crypto president. I'm going to put this industry on my back, and we're going to right the wrongs of Gary Gensler." And instead, he's come in and he's just absolutely pillaged everybody who's been building in this industry for the last few years. He's enriched himself to the tune of $1.4 billion since taking an office. The report shows that he's got over $1.4 billion linked to 635 million from the Trump meme coin, 236.3 million from World Liberty Finance token sales, 196 million from USD1 stake sales, another 65.6 million from World Liberty Finance equity sales. There's Milani NFT sales in there to the tune of $6 million. Trump companies, I think, earned around 800 million from World Liberty Financial associated, activity. So for me, it's very, very egregious. It's very disappointing. He kind of came in as he was going to be this hero and save the industry. What really happened was he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he just ransacked all the work that's been done over the past few years. So very, very disappointing. And we're not even probably going to get the Clarity Act across the line at this stage. So yeah, that's my unfiltered take on how egregious this is. It's very disappointing. Thomas, maybe you see it differently over there in the US.
Maybe the American in the room has a slightly more nuanced opinion as us,
the guy who calls it soccer. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like the market doesn't really care about ethics until like the ethics actually block legislation, right? It's just too good of an argument to take Clarity down, where like so much work has gone into it. And, I don't know. I struggle with this, right? Like we want a pro crypto president, but we don't want one that like scams and grifts, and it always leads me to think like, all right, like I always wonder how much of this is actually Trump himself versus like his kids and just like grifters that are around him, right? Like I don't know, like he's not in there dumping the Trump coin himself. Like how much does he even know of this that's going on? I'm sure that he knows some of it, but I mean, $1.4 billion.
He made a very similar argument, I think, in his most recent interview from the Oval Office, and he was basically saying, "Look, I could choose to find out, but I have actually chosen not to find out what people do with the money that I give them. They manage the money, they make all these decisions." So there very clearly is some degree of separation between him as president and some of these Trump-linked crypto businesses that are generating huge amounts of money. But there's a reason why we have ethics committees, and there's a reason why the ethics committee right now is very much pointing a finger at this. The political sort of games that are being played behind closed doors, we can only speculate about. But yeah, my question to you, TB, there would be: are we right to be frustrated as the crypto industry if, very specifically, this significantly reduces the odds of the Clarity Act passing in 2026? Which, as we know, Senator Lummis herself has said, if it doesn't happen this year, then we're probably staring down the barrel of another 4-year wait before we actually get clarity over the line. That's my question. Are we right to be angry?
Yeah, I think we are, right? Like, I don't think anybody looks at this and is like, this is great. I would assume like the only positive outcome of clarity not passing and this being pushed and, Democrats take over or whatever is like crypto would go back to being like non-seizable assets like that the state can't touch. Like there
Mm,
would be like a good narrative that crypto is like cypherpunk again and it's not something that Trump is trying to push, right? Like I feel like that he's done like such a disservice for just like Bitcoin and crypto in general, as he's talked positively about it, which is good, but then he goes on and pulls 1.4 billion out, in if you look at it like a pretty big bear market ever since he's launched his coin, right?
yeah.
So it's I wouldn't have guessed that this is what would have happened from him becoming president, and it always so it leads me to believe like, all right, how much power is he giving to these people that are using his money? They're using his money, they're using his name, and it's making the whole industry look bad. So it's
I think
bad
when you're
level of
president,
power.
you can probably say, like, I don't know if this is legal, by the way. I'm speculating, but I think you can promise people a pardon behind closed doors, right? You could say, "Hey, take a bunch of my money, do a bunch of questionable stuff, and if shit really hits the fan, I guess I could just give you a pardon because you made me very rich." In fact, so rich that Trump is reported to have made more from his crypto endeavors over the last 24 months than all of his other businesses combined. Bearing in mind that Trump is a 4, 5, potentially even 6-decade businessman. He's made billions in real estate, from casinos to other endeavors that he's had all around the world. There are Trump Towers in many of the biggest cities in the world. So I find it quite interesting that he's now making more money from crypto than all of his other endeavors combined. Comparatively, JD Vance holds a modest sum of between 100,000 and 500,000 worth of crypto, specifically Bitcoin, that's been announced in a Coinbase account. So, yeah, this ethics debate is definitely set to rage on as we get closer to November, the midterms. Elizabeth Warren and that wing of the Democratic Party are going to be getting louder and louder, I think, about Trump's so called crypto corruption. And if they can sort of point fingers at crypto as the biggest smoking gun because he's made more money from crypto, and they use that to sort of take both him down as a president, prevent the Republicans from winning in the midterms, and also end up having massive negative impact on the crypto industry, then I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and
That's
you know
my
what,
take.
Jack? To butt in there too, like
Sure.
when you think about like Trump in general, right? He's probably like one of the most famous people in the world right now, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's been monetizing his name, since he was born, pretty much. So, right, like he's at like the peak of like his fame. And when we think of crypto is like the financialization of everything. So basically, what he did is he financialized his fame and let whoever the World Liberty Team is, maybe, maybe it's Barron, maybe a couple of his kids, just like totally pull as much money out of that as he can based off of it. Yeah, it's what it looks like, right?
But at the
Yep.
expense of who? This is
Us.
my qualm with this, right?
Yeah.
Is great, they made a lot of money in crypto, but that money has to come from somewhere. And in this case, it
Yeah.
was your average retail investor who thought that buying something named Trump would make them rich in crypto,
Yeah.
which is a shame. And if this is the kind of thing that becomes an ethical line that cannot be crossed, and is one of the reasons why Clarity doesn't get across the line, I think that's a big shame, because Clarity is what people have been saying is going to turn the industry around. It's going to bring a whole lot more credibility and regulatory clarity to the industry itself, and it's what's needed to help drive the industry forward. And if we lose that because the president made $1.4 billion in 2 years, that's disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, there should be some clarity in the Clarity Act that he can't make that much money off of us.
Yeah,
I
well
think they're
named.
working. I think they're working on it. I do believe they are working on some amendments that say, depending on where you are as an elected official, you might not be able to make any money from it. I think Trump's an interesting one because my understanding of it is that you can essentially create these shell corporations and lease out the intellectual property, which in this case is the Trump name. And by creating these degrees of separation between yourself and the entities that operate in different jurisdictions, argue that you're not yourself profiting from it. It's the intellectual property that's making the money. So interesting bit of legalese there going on. But yes, Team Money says once again, quite rightly, the industry is full of extraction, giving crypto a bad name. That is certainly what's happening. What we want, though, is we want the Clarity Act to pass. We want it to happen in 2026, so we don't have to wait until 2030. That is really the crux of it. With that said, let's talk about story number 5. Another cause for concern, source of frustration. Finn, I suspect you probably had some fun writing this story. The headline is Grass Farmers Furious with Disappointing Stage 2 Rewards Ahead of Token Holder Call. Not the first time we've spoken about angry grass airdrop farmers. Do you want to talk me through the details here, Finn? And are people more or less right to be angry this time than they were last time? I guess why haven't they learned their lesson if they're still angry?
Yeah, this is a very, very nuanced story, with which I think there's a lot of ways that you can read this. At surface value, Grass, it's a deepen project. You give your unused internet bandwidth to a browser extension that basically runs through the internet. It crawls through a whole bunch of pages, and then it sells that data to AI labs. Good business model. AI labs need a huge amount of data, and Grass is providing that. Grass is providing that so well, in fact, that the estimates are saying that they're making upwards of $50 million to $100 million a year. So obviously they're doing incredibly well. So well done, Grass, on that hand. On the other way, that data is sourced from people who contribute their bandwidth, who download the browser extension, who some would say install spyware on their devices to allow this to go on. And people have been farming this for almost 2 years. I think it went from October 2024 to June this year. So we're probably looking at around 20 months of time. So people have been, running this browser extension for 20 months, and the reward they got for that was around anywhere between $1 and $3. So a lot of people extremely disappointed. If you scroll down a wee bit, you can see there there's a really, really great tweet there. Imagine explaining to your future in-laws, your future kids, that you spent 524 days farming an airdrop, referred 379 people, generated 43 million points, and got rewarded with enough money to buy a McDonald's sauce packet. Peak crypto experience. Thanks, Grass, for the best airdrop. I sympathize with these people. I really do. At the same time, as we've seen with crypto farming, with airdrop farming in general, if there is no capital commitment, if you don't need to put any money into the thing, your chances of getting handsomely rewarded is very low. We've seen the best performing airdrops. It's always things like perp stakes. It's high risk. You need to have a whole lot of skill to actually make money generally doing these things. And the airdrop is kind of a healthy buffer on top. Downloading a browser extension and running it, you're probably not going to do incredibly well out of that. Now, the flip side of this is that Grass, instead of rewarding all these users in the Grass token, they gave it to them in USDC, which I think is fascinating. I think it signals real clear change in where Deepin is going. And the co-founder of Grass, Andre Radonjic, I'm going to probably butcher the pronunciation, but he said that we're able to do this because we're now sufficiently profitable that contributors can be rewarded in cash using revenue from the business instead of sending out a fabricated token that perhaps doesn't actually contain any value at all. So I think this is fascinating. I think this is a watershed moment for Deepin because we followed Helium very closely, right? I really like Helium, but we found out recently that actually they were subsidizing a lot of that revenue flow, and they were actually making only kind of 20% of what was being broadcast. If Grass is able to come out and say, look, we're paying you directly in USDC for your contribution instead of this random token we made up ourselves, that for me is a sign of credibility to a degree. But the flip side is that now people are going, well, what is the point of Grass? If you're not giving it to people and you're not buying it back using revenue, and it doesn't represent equity or ownership in the company at all, what is the point of having this token? And fortunately, I think we're going to find out next week on the Grass token holder call on July 7. I think a lot of people are going to be tuning into that to see what the future for Grass is. Apparently, they've been making a whole lot of revenue. It's been independently verified by Grayscale, Masari, and EV3 Labs. So, yeah, going to be paying very, very close attention to this next week. Thomas, you're also, you know, you love a bit of airdrop farming. Were you involved in this one at all?
I was not. I think I originally farmed it when it first came out for a little bit, like 2 years ago, and then I just kind of gave up on it. But I think this speaks to like DePIN in general is kind of struggling. Like it's hard to really get behind the narrative at this point, right? And I've been seeing a lot of talk on the timeline about like dual like equity slash token, where you have both, and it it makes it tough, right? Like I don't think this is like we figured this out. And I mean, if the company's succeeding, but the token does not accrue value, then everybody that's farming these, everybody that's like providing bandwidth to them, like the crypto users become unpaid growth hackers for the equity holders, so like it doesn't really make that much sense.
But it's
And it's just,
worse. But
what's
but
that?
I think part of the reason why people are so frustrated or as frustrated as they are is because it's kind of worse than that. It's not that you only gave up your bandwidth. And by the way, I say this as a season one airdrop farmer who is very frustrated by his allocation. I think friends and I in total had maybe 8 laptops running around the clock. We actually got all the old laptops we could find. Went on to a more expensive
it.
internet plan, and clearly it didn't pay off. I think like $48 is a number that comes to mind, is what we got on average between all of us. But the point is, the frustration I think now is coming not from the fact that you lost all this time and bandwidth and cost of electricity, is that the data is being monetized to a much higher degree than the value of the airdrop or the value of whatever's being redistributed. So I would personally feel very, very annoyed if I'd been doing it for the whole 20 months. And then I was to find out that a lot of my personal data, okay, however anonymized and aggregated it might be, is then being sold to AI companies for 10, 50 times what the sort of airdrop farmers are receiving. That, in my understanding, is the biggest cause of concern and frustration, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
furious.
justified as well, right? I think that's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the furious farmers, they just don't go away. But I mean, I like at this point, like I'm struggling with DePIN, right? Like I don't know what model would actually make DePIN make sense for me to invest in it at this point. Like I don't know. It seems like even with helium, like you said, they were subsidizing a lot of that, and then they raised their prices of their phone lines, and now it's like it's not a better deal. Like it used to be like a clear cut. It was $20 for a fantastic phone service for me. I paid in dollars, and I would also get some crypto back by farming it. And then now they raised that price, and it's the same price as any other provider. So it's not a better option for me. And now the farmers also, it seems like they're not making as much money on the DePIN side as well. So I'm struggling with DePIN at this point.
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
there are some great tweets there, Jack. If you want to just scroll up for me a little wee bit there. So again, sorry, next one up. Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. So Lizabre, one of the biggest grass balls I've seen on the timeline. He's saying, what's the core reason for grass to exist at this point? If it's not being used to reward holders, and the company's not using revenue to buy it back, grass at this point looks like a meme coin. There's really no reason to have it. You can argue it's a governance token, but generally there's no governance proposals that go along with this. Tulip King has said as well, what is this exchange? What are we even doing here? Go ahead and send this one to 0.2. I suspect if you even just look at Grass's trading action over the past few days, someone knows something because that coin is going up. I think at the token holder call, there's going to be some kind of announcement of value accrual. There's going to be some reason, something that's going to make Grass a viable asset again. And I think anyone who is feeling frustrated with Grass should be tuning into that call to find out what's going on with the company.
Let's pull the chart up.
Yeah.
Here we go. 24 hours, we see a bit of a pump. This is what you've been looking at over the last week. Definitely not a reflection of the negative sentiment that we're seeing on the timeline. Fair to say.
Yeah, a complete inverse, actually. You can see sentiment is horrendous. People are saying it's a scam. People are saying I'm uninstalling the app, which also, for Grass is bad, right? Because if they have people uninstalling the app, all of a sudden they're not getting all the data that they need to be selling off. So they do need to encourage and incentivize these people to be contributing. But look, all eyes on the token holder call next week. I think that's where people will finally get the answers that they're looking for.
Absolutely. Now, story number 6. Right before we get to my favorite part of Finn's newsletter every Friday when we go live, which is, of course, the honorable mentions. And we get the occasional dishonorable mention in there as well, which is always fun. And we talk about the stat of the week and we talk about the state of Solana in the week. But before we get there, we have to get through story number 6. And in this case, the headline is Solana launches on-chain governance, giving stakers a direct voice in protocol decisions. Now, I'm not going to give too much context on this, Finn, but the one thing that stood out to me is that any validator with at least 100,000 SOL delegated can submit an SGP. Now, when I first read this, Solana governance proposals, by the way, when I first read this, I expected it to be maybe 1,000 SOL delegated, but no, it's 100,000. So my question to you, right before I ask you to sort of give us some more color on this article, is that too high?
I don't think so. I think if you have a genuinely serious proposal you want to submit, you need to have a sufficient amount of stake in the network to use everyone's time to go through it. I think if every validator could make any suggestion, it would be absolute chaos, and the amount of spam that would just get sent through that people then have to allocate time towards dealing with, it becomes counterproductive. I think a big part of why this change has been presented, why we now have SGPs and SIMDs, is because look, SIMDs, generally, they're very technical, right? And you don't necessarily need to have everybody who holds one SOL in their wallet to be weighing in on this and shouting their opinion out, because SIMDs are typically for core devs to make agile, quick changes that make the network better. I think obviously there's been some really good ones in the past. SIMD 228 is a great example, but that's what the method here is, to say that big things that concern everybody should go to SGPs, and that way everybody at an individual level can vote on it. I had to play around with the app on this a few weeks ago while I was first looking into it. And if you are a staker, you can go and you can click on the proposal. You can allocate 30% of your votes to yes. You can allocate 30% to abstain. 50% to no. You have full control over where your vote goes. And in the past, you had to rely on your validator to do that for you. And if your validator was doing something you didn't agree with, you have to shift your stake over to someone else. So ultimately, this is great for the individual user. It's great for the core devs, who now get a much more streamlined approach to just getting their SIMDs on paper, on chain, and helping things run a lot faster. And we still have this holistic process where everybody can come together for bigger votes. So I think it's a tremendous step forward. I'm very, very happy to see this go live. There's been a lot of work going into this over the past few months and years. And look, with all the governance proposals coming up that are going to make tokenomics changes and make Solana a whole lot better, I'm very, very excited to get this in motion for everybody. Thomas, bit of a rant from me. How are you feeling about it?
No, I feel pretty good. So do you need 100,000 SOL staked in order to vote on this? Or if you stake, 5 SOL, you can delegate them to a validator that's going to be voting for you?
If you have 100,000 SOL staked, you can submit a proposal. If you have 1 SOL and there's a proposal that's being voted on, you can just go in and you can vote on that directly. You can override what your validator does. It makes the whole voting process a whole lot smoother. I remember in SIMD 228, there was a whole thing about, I staked to this validator. I like this validator. They're voting against my wishes. I have to now move my stake to someone else. And that means that a lot of votes don't get represented properly because people are lazy. So this streamlines the process. I think it's a whole lot better. And to my point, I think it makes core devs working on SIMDs able to just do that without having to worry about, someone with 50 cents worth of SOL carping up with an opinion that they are malinformed about. So a win for everybody involved, I would say.
Yeah,
that's
this
awesome.
is a great tweet here, actually, that captures exactly what you guys are saying. Tweet from Soul Strategies. Michael, having personally run the last few governance votes by manually issuing tokens to validators and providing tally tools, a painful and manual process, this is an incredibly important step forward for Solana governance. Now, Solana governance, as you all know from following our discussions and many of the tweets on the timeline about SIMDs, starting from 228, all the way to the more recent ones about inflation, reducing the disinflation rate. It's contentious. People have very strong opinions. They have very loud opinions. Sometimes it gets so heated that we end up calling very well-researched arguments YOLO economics, and then people get offended. So we have to do interviews about it and sort of really try and get to the bottom of it. We know that this is a much-needed and long-awaited governance update. So I'm going to agree with Michael from Soul Strategies here that it is an incredibly important step forward for Solana governance. The question that remains, though, and this one is for you, Finn and Thomas, are we going to get a SIMD 228 equivalent passed? Are we going to reduce SOL inflation? Do we still need it? What do the people think, and what do you guys think?
Look,
I mean,
the upcoming disinflation proposal, I think, is going to get voted through in a landslide. I think people want this. It's the bear market. It's the best time to make it happen. This new process is going to make it easier to get that done. Yeah, I think both the two proposals in there now, 550, 553, I think is the official terms. They're both going to get passed with a landslide positive vote.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like everybody wants this, right? So if this kind of allows everybody to vote and their votes count more, then I would assume that this would make, if we're going back to the odds thing, improve the odds of it actually passing, right?
It's all about the odds.
Yeah.
Should be
It
a
is
prediction
all about the
market for it,
odds.
to be honest.
They should.
Yeah.
I mean,
And there will be, right? Like, it's 2026, there will be a market for it.
Where in the world?
Yeah.
Where in the world is it? World.xyz.
to our listeners, if you do know of, or if you have made of, or you are inclined to make a Solana inflation proposal or general SIMD prediction market, then do let us know. We would like to participate. I'm thinking though, would anyone outside the Solana ecosystem really want to participate in something like that? Maybe not, but in any case, it'll be fun, wouldn't it? I'm sure there's some sort of P2P version of it. Now, Finn, it was such a crazy week, as we were discussing at the beginning of the stream, that we've ended up with a much longer than usual list of honorable mentions. Would you like to do the honors and run through these in a quick fire round?
Let's do it. This week's honorable mentions. Claynosaurus has announced a 15% brand equity options allocation for eligible NFT holders. Solana Ardua market size hits 3.6 billion, a new all-time high again. Securitize has launched tokenized SECZ shares on Solana alongside its NICE debut. Spyco Finance launches on Solana, bringing more tokenized funds on-chain. Forward Industries adds 500k SOL to its treasury. Collector Crypt recorded 400 million in monthly trading volume, a new all-time high. Backpack secures EU licensing trifecta, securing MiCA, MiFID 2, and PSD2 certification. Flash Trade V2 goes live with 50 millisecond execution via Magic Block and gasless trading, and over 3 million SOL has been deployed into OR since its V3 launch. What a list. Jack, what do you like?
I can't decide. I'm still thinking. I'm caught between OR V3. I'm caught between Collector Crypt's $400 million monthly trading volume, which is just frankly insane. I'm caught between saying Forward Industries adding 500,000 SOL to its treasury. I love the fact that Securitize has gone public. I love the fact that real world assets have hit $3.6 billion. So I don't know. TB, are you also struggling here?
I'm struggling a bit. So okay, but I'm gonna break it down to two. So over 3 million SOL deployed into OR. Let's go. I think that is awesome. Excited to see what they come out with for V4, and got the hard hat up there. Shout out to hard hat Chad. And then I mean also all the RWAs, right? Put these stocks in the blocks. I'm excited about them. The more that come out, the better. I feel like they're just going to be teasing new stocks that come out, and I think that's huge.
Okay, gun to my head, I'm going to say real world asset markets hitting $3.6 billion. I'm pretty sure we have close to 300,000 unique holders now, if not more, well over 2,200 different asset types. And I think, we talk about the Solana ecosystem maturing all the time. All of these all-time high numbers that you're seeing, whether it's Collector Crypt or Forward Industries adding more SOL to their treasuries, or the 3 million SOL being deployed into OR, I have a feeling all of these all-time highs are in the long run going to be downstream of the real world asset all-time high increasing as well as the Solana ecosystem matures. So I'm going to go with that one. Finn, what is standing out to you?
Look, I want to give you two as well. The first one I'm going to go with is Collector Crypt recording 400 million in monthly trading volume. We need consumer apps. Consumer apps is what brings people to Solana in the first place. If they, get brought because they're ripping packs and trading cards and stuff, and then they stay because they want to learn about decentralization and DeFi and all that comes with that, this is a massive win. So well done, Collector Crypt, for that. And the second one, it's going to be Flash Trade V2, right? Give Flash Trade some love, guys, because Flash Trade has been absolutely crushing it. One of the longest standing perp sexes we've had on Solana. They've been through it all, and their app is just getting better and better. 15 millisecond execution is great. Gasless trading is great. Well done, Flash Trade. Love trading on it. Well done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Congratulations. GG, well played to Flash Trade. What else?
Indeed.
What else do we have here? Why liquid staking might work better for you? It's Yeah, go and watch the video. That's all I'm going to say. It's short, it's snappy, it's straight to the point, and that this is your much needed reminder that Sanctum is one of the best places across the Solana ecosystem to get 8%, up to 8% APY on your Sol. Stat of the week. It was, I think, also quite difficult, Finno, to pick the stat of the week here. We've also got State of Solana in a tweet, but is this the case? High frequency trenches are returning. Wallets making 20 plus trades per day are up 45% in the last month. That's surprising to me.
Yep, and welcome back into the fold, Adam Tech, because Adam, as many people know, has been one of the great dashboard creators of previous meme coin cycles. He's back in action. He's making new dashboards, and here we can see wallets making 20 plus trades per day are up 45% in the last month. So
that's huge.
People who are trading a lot and trading often are back. The trenches are back. Liquidity is flowing. Trades are moving. Very, very exciting for on-chain activity. Thank you, Adam, for bringing this one to our attention. And if we push on down to the state of Solana in a tweet, what do we have? The man himself, the man of the moment, Ansem. Can you feel the vibe shift? So people who tuned in last week will remember that our state of Solana in tweet last week was Ansem himself saying, bottom is in. Here we are. A week later, Sol's up around 10%. The trenches are going nuts for a new coin that's gone from 0 to 170 million in a matter of days. Can you feel the vibe shift, Thomas, Jack? Can you feel the vibe shift?
Oh, undeniably.
I can't. Yeah. It feels great too. I feel like Solana's been kind of like sidelined for a while. We saw like Hype do a big run up, Zcash do a big run up, and Sol kind of didn't. Right? It's been on the sidelines. So I think it's time. I think that it has the motion. It's got the momentum right now. So I'm excited for it. I've been buying. So I like the Solanas. Let's go.
We did say maybe a couple of weeks ago when Sol was trading at around between $60 and $70, there was a bit of chop there. We did say that we'd be buyers at these levels because, long-term DCAing, but not taking any insanely large positions, not really touching too much leverage. I think that still is a reasonable position to hold. At least it's what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. I do have a strong amount of conviction. As one of our audience members here, T Money says, even more so with JTX. Yes, JTX is one of those, I think, core innovations that's coming out of the Solana ecosystem now. I believe it's open for beta testers. Now, if you are on that list and you have tested it out, let us know what you think, what you love about it. Finn and Thomas are going to be using that in an upcoming trading live show that we're putting on for you guys. So also turn your notifications on to make sure you get notified when we go live. It is, for context, going to be a thesis-based trading live stream. We're not going to be aping with 100x leverage into silly tokens, but we're trying to figure out what an intelligent decision looks like when you're trading on crypto, when it looks like when you're trading on prosumer-facing platforms like JTX, when you're using Solana-native perps platforms like Phoenix, and so on and so forth. So I guess another request to our listeners is if you have any really strong conviction theses as to why you think Sol, for example, is a buy at these levels, or maybe you think STRC is worth shorting, or you think Michael Saylor is going to blow up and we should all pack up and go home. If you have any really strong convictions, then do send them in to us. We'll do our best to sort of go through them, decide if you're right or wrong, and then Finn and Thomas will take the trade or will leave the trade. So that's going to be quite a fun upcoming live stream that we're putting on for you guys as well. Guys, any other alpha you can share with us from this week? I mean, okay, trenches are back. Crazy things are happening in the White House with regulators, but are we missing any alpha here?
Man,
there's always alpha, Jack.
There's always alpha.
I don't know how much we can share.
Yeah,
I mean, there's always out there.
Yeah, regarding the trading show, it's like I am so excited about this. Right, we've been talking about it, and it's like what Solana is right now is where you can trade everything. Right. So the more that we're able to trade, the more options we have, like the more important alpha actually becomes. So it's like, what are the actual trades? If all stocks are on chain, if, every single coin from every ecosystem's on chain, you have endless options. So to really kind of narrow it down and have people come on the show that are very convicted on some coins, I can't wait to hear it, whether it's, I'm hoping it's not 100K meme coins, which is not the purpose of the show, but meme coins are coming back, right? So we're going to need to understand what's going on in that market. Perp dexes are making a comeback. what are the most interesting options, for executing trades, and what are the trades. So I think that there's so much we can get to the bottom of. What do you think?
Speaking of meme coins, an interesting comment just came in. So I'm gonna do what I shouldn't do. I'm gonna put it on screen. Retire on botcoin. I'm not sure to what extent that's a justified thesis. Would you guys take the trade? Would you guys not take the trade? I don't know. You'd probably need some more information than that. Yeah, continue sharing your theses with us. Why you want to go long? Why you want to go short? What your sort of long-term vision for the market overall is? Because I feel like we're on the cusp of something now, where if we don't nuke over the coming weeks, if we don't chop into November and then have a very bad outcome with the Clarity Act, with the midterms, then I think we're in a very, very good position going into 2027 as an industry, with all the innovation that's been happening, all the fundamentals that have been happening, all the all-time highs from real-world assets to on-chain equity trading volumes, so on and so forth. I feel like it's a great time to be in Solana and be covering Solana. So those are my final words. Any final words from you, TB and Finn, before we pack it up and we say have a great weekend?
I would
Nothing more from me.
I would take that buttcoin trade. My wife used to always joke about Bitcoin and call it buttcoin. Like, oh, are you talking about your buttcoin with your Twitter friends? So I think it's hilarious, and I'd take it.
All right. I was going to say I'd reject it. So, balance in all things.
There we go. Tune in for the new trading show that we're going to be putting on, happening very, very soon. With that, enjoy your weekend, everyone, and see you very, very soon.
All right.
Thanks, fellas. Always a pleasure.